The Young and the Restless spoilers Thurdays September 19, 2024 full. Sharon Newman sat nervously across from Daniel, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The dimly lit cafe was a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. For years, Sharon had been a whirlwind of emotions, obsessive, controlling, and often unpredictable. But today, she appeared different. Her demeanor was calm, almost serene, as she looked Daniel in the eyes with a sincerity that seemed genuine. "Daniel, I need to talk to you," Sharon began, her voice soft yet earnest. "I've made so many mistakes. I've interfered in your life and Lucy's, thinking I was protecting her, but I see now that I was wrong. I pushed too hard, and I crossed boundaries I shouldn't have. I'm truly sorry. Please, can you forgive me?" Daniel stared back at her, his expression guarded and skeptical. He had heard apologies from Sharon before, apologies that were often followed by more chaos and manipulation. The weight of past betrayals hung heavily between them, making it difficult for Daniel to trust her words. His jaw tightened as he responded, "Sharon, I've heard this all before. Every time you say you're sorry, you end up causing more problems. Why should I believe this time is different?" Sharon blinked rapidly, as though holding back tears. "I know I've hurt you and Lucy. I've been seeing a therapist, taking medication, and I feel like I'm finally in control of my illness. I want to make things right." Unbeknownst to Sharon, Nick Newman had been watching the exchange from a nearby table. He approached cautiously, his curiosity piqued by Sharon's seemingly genuine transformation. Nick had always been protective of his family, and Sharon's unpredictable behavior had been a constant source of tension. As he drew closer, he couldn't help but notice the calmness in Sharon's demeanor, a stark contrast to the Sharon he had come to know all too well. "Sharon, are you okay?" Nick asked, concern etched on his face. "You seem different today." Sharon offered a tentative smile. "Yes, Nick. I've been working on myself. I want to be a better mother, a better person." Nick exchanged a glance with Daniel, who remained unconvinced. "This all sounds great, Sharon, but we've been down this road before. How do we know you're not just trying to manipulate us again?" Sharon took a deep breath, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I understand why you'd be skeptical, Nick. But I truly am trying to change. Let me prove it to you." Daniel remained silent, his eyes never leaving Sharon's face. "I want to believe you, Sharon, but actions speak louder than words. You need to show us that you've truly changed." As Sharon nodded, a plan was forming in her mind. Her calm facade was part of a larger strategy. She was creating a diversion, making everyone believe she had turned a new leaf, lowering their defenses. Sharon had always been a master of manipulation, and this time was no different. She needed to divert Daniel's attention, making him believe that his suspicions were unfounded, paving the way for her next move. Meanwhile, across town, Adam Chandler was seething with frustration. He paced the length of his opulent penthouse, his mind fixated on Connor, his teenage son. Connor's incessant hopes of reuniting Adam with his ex-wife, Chelsea Lawson, were becoming unbearable. Despite being his own flesh and blood, Adam treated Connor with a cruelty that was both shocking and unforgivable. He picked up his phone and dialed Chelsea's number without hesitation. "Chelsea, it's Adam. We need to talk about Connor." Adam's tone was cold and detached. "He's becoming a problem, Chelsea. His constant meddling in our lives is disrupting my privacy. I think it's time you take him out of Genoa City, for now." Chelsea's heart sank at his words. "Adam, you can't be serious. Connor needs you. He's your son." Adam's voice hardened. "I know, but he's standing in the way of my life. I can't deal with his constant interference anymore. Take him and leave him alone." Chelsea felt a wave of despair wash over her. She had always known Adam could be ruthless, but this was different. "Adam, he's just a kid. He doesn't understand. Please, don't do this." Adam's response was icy. "Connor needs to stop living in a fantasy that you and I are getting back together. It's not happening. I'm moving on with my life, and I need you to do the same." As the call ended, Chelsea felt a mixture of fear and helplessness. She knew Adam's words were final, but how could she remove her son from their lives? She had to find a way to protect Connor from his father's cruelty. Later that evening, Chelsea sat down with Connor, her heart heavy with the impending conversation. Connor looked up at her with innocent eyes, hope shimmering in his gaze. "Mom, is Dad coming to dinner tonight? I thought maybe we could all eat together, like we used to." "Yes." Chelsea took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "Connor, sweetheart, we need to talk." She reached out and took his hands in hers. "Your dad and we're not going to get back together. We've tried, but it just isn't happening. I'm so sorry." Connor's face fell, his eyes welling up with tears. "But why? I thought if I was good, if I behaved, you guys would want to be together again." Chelsea pulled him into a tight embrace, fighting back her own tears. "It's not your fault, Connor. This isn't about you. Sometimes, adults just can't make things work, no matter how hard they try. We both love you very much, and that's what's important." As Connor cried into her shoulder, Chelsea felt a pang of sadness. She knew Connor's disappointment would deepen, but she also understood that she had to be honest with him. Keeping up the facade would only lead to more pain in the long run. Back at the cafe, Sharon excused herself from the table, her mind racing with the next steps of her plan. She had successfully created a diversion, making Daniel and Nick believe she had changed. Now, it was time to exploit their lowered defenses. Unbeknownst to them, Sharon had orchestrated this meeting to gain their trust, making them think she was no longer a threat. Her true intentions remained hidden, as she began to subtly manipulate events from behind the scenes. Daniel's skepticism had not deterred her, instead, it had reinforced her determination to execute her plan flawlessly. As Sharon walked away, she felt a surge of confidence. Her ability to feign remorse had worked perfectly. Daniel remained on guard, but Sharon knew how to push his buttons just enough to keep him distracted. She could now proceed with her scheme, knowing that her family was too preoccupied to notice her true intentions. Meanwhile, Adam's decision to remove Connor from Genoa City set off a chain of events that would further complicate the lives of those around him. Connor, devastated by the realization that his parents were no longer a family, struggled to cope with his feelings of abandonment. His hopes of reconciliation had been dashed, and now, he was left to navigate the pain alone. Chelsea, burdened by the truth she had to share, found herself torn between protecting her son and maintaining a semblance of normalcy. She knew that telling Connor the truth was the right thing to do, but the weight of his disappointment was a heavy burden to bear. As she watched Connor grapple with his shattered dreams, Chelsea vowed to support him, no matter how difficult it would be. Back in Genoa City, the tensions between Sharon, Daniel, and Nick continued to simmer. Sharon's strategic manipulation had kept Daniel at bay, but Nick's curiosity was growing. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss with Sharon's sudden change in behavior. Determined to uncover the truth, Nick began to dig deeper, unaware of the intricate web Sharon had woven around them. As the days turned into weeks, the underlying tensions in Genoa City intensified. Sharon's influence began to resurface, subtly undermining Daniel and Nick's efforts to maintain stability. Her ability to mask her true intentions made her a formidable adversary, one that Daniel and Nick were ill-prepared to face. Connor, meanwhile, struggled to find his place in a family that had fractured before his eyes. His relationship with Chelsea became strained as he grappled with feelings of rejection and confusion. Despite his father's blatant cruelty, Connor couldn't help but hold on to a glimmer of hope that his parents might one day reconcile. But with Adam's unwavering stance, that hope seemed futile, and his disappointment only deepened with each passing day. Chelsea, sensing Connor's growing despair, sought solace in her close friends and family. She leaned on her support system, finding strength in their unwavering presence. Yet, the pain of seeing her son suffer weighed heavily on her, pushing her to the brink of exhaustion. In the midst of these personal battles, Genoa City itself seemed to be holding its breath. The delicate balance of power, the intricate relationships, and the ever-present undercurrents of deceit and manipulation created an environment ripe for conflict. Sharon's machinations threatened to unravel the very fabric of the Newman family, while Adam's ruthless actions cast a shadow over the lives of those around him. As Sharon continued to play her part, slowly regaining the trust she had once lost, Daniel and Nick found themselves entangled in a game of cat and mouse. Daniel's instincts screamed that Sharon was up to something, but Sharon's facade was too convincing to ignore. Nick, ever the detective, began to piece together the subtle clues that pointed to Sharon's true intentions, but every revelation only seemed to deepen the mystery.